So you went to the dentist. Maybe it was a routine cleaning. Maybe you went in because your jaw was aching or kept waking you up with a migraine that started right at the temples and radiated up. And somewhere in that appointment, your dentist tilted their head, did a little examination, and said those three letters, TMJ. Then they probably handed you a treatment plan, right? Probably involved a custom mouth guard, a follow-up appointment, and a number that made your eyes water a little. Does that sound familiar? Welcome back to the Migraine Freedom Your Way podcast. I'm Debbie Waidl, migraine freedom expert and functional health coach. And today we are talking about TMJ, migraines, and that very expensive piece of plastic that is probably sitting in your nightstand, not fixing anything. Here's a number I want you to sit with for a second. If you have been diagnosed with a TMJ disorder, you are 2.76 times more likely to have a migraine than someone who is not. And 85.5% of women with TMJ disorders report headaches. 85.5%. Now, that's not a coincidence, that's a connection. And it's a connection that the conventional dental and medical system is largely treating backwards. Now, here's what I mean by that. Most women who get a TMJ diagnosis, they end up on a path that looks something like this. Mouthguard, maybe some physical therapy for the jaw, anti-inflammatories, possibly some dental work to adjust the bite. And when the migraines keep coming, we do more of the same. Does that sound like a pattern that you recognize from other areas of your migraine treatment? Treat the symptom, not the source, and wonder why nothing is sticking. So here's what is actually happening when TMJ and migraine show up together. Your jaw joint and your migraine system, they share a nerve. It's called the trigeminal nerve, and it is essentially the main electrical wire for your entire head and face. If something irritates it anywhere along the line, you feel it everywhere. So when there is inflammation in your jaw joint, when those muscles are tense, when the joint is irritated, that inflammation sends signals up the trigeminal nerve. And here's where it gets even a little bit more interesting. Those signals travel to what is called the trigeminal ganglion, which is basically a relay station for pain signals in your head. And both your jaw and your migraine system feed into that same relay station. Now, what that means in just plain English is this. Inflammation in your jaw can flip the switch for a migraine. Not metaphorically, literally, through a shared nerve pathway. And it gets a little worse when this pathway keeps firing over and over. Your nervous system starts to adapt. It becomes sensitized. Your brain essentially learns to amplify pain signals even when the original trigger is gone. This is the same central sensitization that we talked about in last week's episode on cervicogenic headaches. Your threshold drops, your triggers multiply, and things that never used to bother you suddenly do. Now, if this sounds familiar, it's because it is the same root mechanism, different location, same underlying driver. Now, here's where I want to talk about the mouth guard, because I'm not saying mouth guards are useless. They have a role. If you're grinding your teeth at night and you're in the process of working on why you're grinding your teeth, for a while you need something so that you're not destroying your enamel, and a mouth guard is absolutely appropriate. It protects your teeth. That is a real thing. But here's what the mouth guard can't do. It can't address the inflammation driving the jaw dysfunction in the first place. It cannot calm a nervous system that has been in threat mode for years. It cannot reduce the systemic inflammation load that is keeping your trigeminal nerve on high alert. And it cannot reverse central sensitization. A mouth guard is just another Band-Aid. It manages the symptoms of the jaw dysfunction without asking why the jaw is dysfunctioning in the first place. And the reason that most women end up with TMJ symptoms alongside their migraine is not because they have a jaw problem. It's because they have an inflammation problem that is expressing itself in like multiple places at once. The jaw, the neck, the head, the gut, the hormones, all of it is connected. All of it is driven by the same underlying inflammation overload that nobody's looking at together. I've actually worked with women who've had teeth pulled because of TMJ. Women who spent thousands of dollars on custom dental orthotics. Women who went through rounds of physical therapy for their jaw. And then they came to us. We addressed the inflammation load at the root, and the jaw symptoms either resolved or became dramatically easier to manage. Not because we treated the jaw, but because we treated the body. So after me saying that, if you're sitting there thinking, wait, does this mean my TMJ diagnosis was wrong? Well, not necessarily, right? The jaw dysfunction may be real. The pain is absolutely real. But the question worth asking is not how do I fix my jaw? The question is why is my jaw inflamed and my nervous system sensitized in the first place? Because when you address the whole inflammation picture together, something interesting tends to happen. The things that seem like separate problems, the migraines, the jaw pain, the neck tension, the brain fog, the sleep issues, they start to resolve together because they were never separate problems. They were one problem expressing itself in multiple locations. Your body has been trying to tell you something. The TMJ diagnosis is not the whole story. It is like a signpost pointing towards something deeper. Now, if you caught last week's episode on cervicogenic headaches, you already know where I'm going with this. The neck was not the problem. The jaw was not the problem. The problem is the inflammation overload loop that is making every sensitive structure in your head and neck a potential migraine trigger. But here's the good news. This is addressable. It's not permanent, and it's not who you are. It is a pattern that has a root cause and a path forward. So if you want to understand what that looks like for your specific body, the link to book a complimentary migraine breakthrough assessment, it's right in the show notes. It's a real conversation about what has actually been driving your migraines and whether the Freedom from Migraine method is the right fit for you. And if this episode resonated, share it with someone you know who's been told they have TMJ and handed a Mouthguard and then sent home, because she deserves to hear this too. We'll see you next week.